She was just a maid in a billionaire's mansion, until the day she was accused without proof. Everyone turned against her, except the billionaire's silent son, whose drawings revealed the truth. Rain pounded heavily against the old tiled roof of Crestwood Manor, the sound echoing through its endless marble corridors. Serena Washington knelt on the cold stone floor, her dark, work-worn hands gripping a worn cloth. Rainwater had soaked the sleeves of her uniform, but that discomfort was nothing compared to the constant weight she carried. A small black woman swallowed by the vast, sterile luxury of a white marble palace. She had grown used to the silence of the house. Yet tonight that silence felt different, heavier. Every beat of her heart seemed louder than the rain hammering above. Suddenly, footsteps broke the stillness behind her, slow, heavy, steady. Serena froze, her breath caught in her throat. When she turned, Julian Croft was already standing there, tall, imposing, his face calm to the point of cruelty. His gray eyes swept over her as if examining not just her appearance but the blood running in her veins. "You've seen something you shouldn't have." His voice was low, hard, not a question but an accusation. Serena straightened, her heart racing. "Mr. Croft, I don't understand what you mean." He stepped closer, the sharp strike of his shoes echoing against the marble. "Don't pretend to be naive. I know you went into my office." In that moment, Leo's image flashed through her mind, the 7-year-old boy she protected like her own flesh and blood. He didn't speak. He only drew. And sometimes those drawings told the truth more clearly than any confession. Julian leaned in, his voice a hiss. "Did he say anything to you?" Serena swallowed hard. Outside, the rain kept pouring, relentless. But the real storm had already broken loose, right here inside the house. Serena Washington often woke before dawn. While the sun still hid behind the damp hills surrounding Crestwood, she would already be in the kitchen, rubbing an old copper pot until it gleamed. People in the manor often called her the quiet ghost of the house, appearing everywhere, working tirelessly, then vanishing without a trace. But within that silence, her heart was always anchored to one place. Leo, the 7-year-old boy with messy brown hair and eyes as clear as a lake after rain. Others only saw stubborn silence. Serena saw a vast world hidden in those eyes. Leo didn't speak. He tapped, he drew, he hummed faint melodies without words. To outsiders, it was strange, maybe even broken. To Serena, it was a language. One morning, when she set a plate of pancakes in front of him, Leo tapped the wooden table twice. Serena smiled. "You're hungry, aren't you?" His eyes flickered with brief light before dropping again, his finger tracing shapes in the crumbs. Serena had never tried to fix him. She knew silence had its own value, sometimes more than 1,000 words. Maybe because she, too, had once been forced into silence. The memory stung like an old scar. As a child, she had been brushed aside by a teacher when she tried to raise her voice. "Sit down, Washington. No one cares about your opinion." That day, she learned silence wasn't always a choice. It was often imposed, and to survive, she had turned it into strength. Perhaps that's why, when she looked at Leo, she didn't see a disabled child. She saw a silent warrior learning to speak in his own way. But across from Serena and Leo's fragile world stood Julian Croft. He wasn't a distant father who neglected his child. He was close, but close the way a warden is close to his prisoner. Everything around Leo was under Julian's surveillance. His bedroom, the hallways, even the rose garden outside the veranda, all were dotted with cameras linked to the phone in Julian's pocket. Serena had once witnessed a scene that chilled her. One morning, a gardener accidentally snapped a rare rose branch. Julian didn't yell. He didn't smash things. He simply approached, stared directly at the man, and said, "You have 10 minutes to pack and leave." No scolding, no second chance, just a cold sentence. Serena never forgot the look on the gardener's face as he walked out the iron gates with his small bag, bewildered, as if he had been ripped from the very soil that sustained him. Julian didn't punish mistakes. He erased them. From the moment Serena entered Crestwood, Julian bristled at her bond with Leo. Every time he saw the boy resting his head on her shoulder, Julian's gaze hardened like ice. He couldn't understand it, and what Julian didn't understand, he would control or destroy. Serena knew that. But she also knew she could not, would not, abandon Leo. If she left, who would recognize that 2 taps on the table meant hungry, while 3 short ones meant afraid? One night, as she put laundry away, a crash erupted upstairs. A man's voice, hoarse with fury, echoed down the hall. Serena hurried toward the sound. Julian's office door stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, she saw him. Phone pressed to his ear, face red, veins bulging at his temples. "I don't care about the cost. Bury it, you hear me? Bury it." He hurled the phone against the wall, shattering it into pieces. At that instant, his eyes met Serena's. A thick silence filled the air. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He simply bent down, slowly gathered the fragments and placed them on the desk. But in his eyes, Serena saw something heavier than rage. Fear. She stepped back, her pulse racing. That night, when Leo hummed his familiar tune in the dark, Serena sat for hours beside his bed, clutching the blanket as if it were a lifeline. Inside Julian's office was a red leather case, always locked in a glass cabinet. No one in Crestwood was allowed near it. Some whispered it contained stock contracts. Others said classified files for a billion-dollar project. Serena didn't know. She only knew Julian never took his eyes off it. But the morning after the phone call, as Serena passed the hallway, she froze. The glass cabinet was wide open. The red case, gone. The air inside the house thickened. Other staff, the cooks, maids, gardeners, avoided her gaze. They whispered as she passed. Some shook their heads. Serena felt like prey caught in an unseen hunt. Leo sensed it before anyone else. Normally withdrawn, he now shrank even further. No more sketching on the sunny porch. No more chasing butterflies. He curled in a corner, clutching his tablet. Serena knelt beside him. "Are you okay, Leo?" He didn't answer. His trembling finger moved across the cracked screen, then he handed it to her. On it was a drawing, a tall man with a sorrowful face standing beside a tree engulfed in flames. Serena's breath caught. This wasn't random play, not just a child's drawing. It was a warning. From that day, Julian's eyes on her changed. They pierced her every move. Each step down the corridor felt like an invisible noose tightening. She knew she could walk away, find another job somewhere else. But each time she thought of leaving, she looked at Leo. He looked back with silent pleading in his eyes. To Julian, she was a replaceable servant. But to Leo, she was the entire world. And a world without her was one he could not survive. Before we step into what lies ahead, pause for a moment. If you were Serena, what would you do? Stay to protect Leo or leave to save yourself? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow so you won't miss what comes next. Serena still believed the worst that could happen was losing her job, but she was wrong. The worst was yet to come. Julian Croft no longer bothered to hide his watching. Every time Serena walked down the gleaming wooden corridors, she could feel his eyes piercing her back like needles. His silence weighed heavier than any threat, making each step feel as if she were walking on thin ice. Yet instead of exploding, he suddenly changed. He began to act kind, but it wasn't the kind that eased one's heart. It was the kind that felt like the air before a storm, thick and suffocating, pressing hard against her chest. One morning, Serena bent to button Leo's coat before taking him to the garden. Her hands trembled slightly, sensing Julian's gaze. Sure enough, when she looked up, he stood on the terrace, hands clasped behind his back, the dark suit molded tight against his rigid frame. "He can stay out longer," he said flatly, as if granting a favor. Serena froze. The words didn't match the man she knew. "Yes, thank you, sir." His thin smile flickered and vanished, leaving an emptiness she couldn't read. Inside, she felt no gratitude. Julian Croft never acted out of kindness. Every move he made had a purpose, and every purpose carried a hidden blade. On the grass, Leo hunched over his sketch of a tall tree. Serena sat beside him, restless, her eyes drifting to the balcony where Julian still stood. He wasn't looking at his son. He was watching her, quiet, cold, calculating. "What does he want from me?" she thought, fingers clenching her dress. This kindness terrified her more than his outbursts. It was the still coil of a cobra, waiting for the strike. In the days that followed, the pattern repeated. Julian feigned interest in small details. He asked about her hometown and her mother. One rare evening when they shared a family meal, his voice cut through the soft clatter of silver on china. "Do you have family here, Washington?" The question startled her. She forced a reply. "Just my mother. She lives far away." Julian nodded, gray eyes flickering strangely. "She must be proud of you." It sounded like praise, but it crawled over her skin. Each word spun like a silken thread, fragile yet clinging, binding her to a game whose rules she didn't know. Serena bowed her head, silent. He was probing. He wanted something from her. She was sure of it. One dreary afternoon, clouds heavy over the hilltops, Serena was folding laundry in the washroom when hurried footsteps thundered down the hallway. The door burst open. 2 police officers entered, uniforms damp with rain, voices firm. "Are you Serena Washington?" Stunned, clutching a damp shirt in her hand, she stammered, "Yes." "What is this about?" Julian appeared behind them, face like ice, lips curled in a smug half-smile. His eyes glowed with triumph. "Tell them what you took from my office, Serena. Tell them about the confidential documents inside the red leather case." Her heart plummeted. She shook her head frantically. "What? I didn't take anything. I don't even know what's inside." Julian chuckled darkly. "Oh, really? Then how do you explain the empty case we found hidden under your bed?" "No, that's impossible." Serena's voice cracked. "I never touched it. Someone must have—" "Enough," Julian cut her off, his tone a blade of steel. "Stop the act." The officers dragged her back to her room. On the floor lay the red leather case empty, her vision blurred. The room spun. Her breath came ragged as if she'd run miles. "He's framed me. A perfect trap. You have to believe me," she cried, tears spilling. "Someone put it here. I swear I never—" But her words dissolved into the air. The officers averted their eyes. Julian stood tall, arms folded, that cold smile etched on his lips. In this world, who would believe a black maid over a white billionaire? The scales had tipped before she even spoke. "No one will believe me. No one." The commotion drew Leo. He froze at the doorway, blue eyes wide at the sight of Serena in handcuffs. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He stood trembling, chest heaving. "Leo?" Serena choked, her voice breaking. The boy said nothing. Instead, he turned to his father, then hurled his tablet straight at Julian. It crashed against the stone floor, screen splintering like a spider's web. But the glow remained. On it, a half-finished drawing of Serena, a golden halo glowing above her head. The room went still. Serena gasped. In those young eyes, Leo saw her as a guardian angel. A child without words had just screamed with the only voice he had. Julian bent and snatched the tablet. His face darkened, gray eyes blazing with fury. An officer yanked Serena forward. She twisted for one last look, Leo trembling, tears streaming while Julian clenched the shattered tablet, lips hissing. "Make sure she understands the consequences." As the police marched her out, the cold wind swept the corridor, carrying the scent of oncoming rain. Serena lifted her eyes to the sky, thick with black clouds. A storm was gathering. Inside her rose a chilling truth. This isn't about losing a job. I've stepped into a war with the most powerful man I've ever faced, and this time, silence would not save her. Crestwood grew eerily silent after Serena's arrest. The house, already cold, now wore a shroud of gloom that no one could name. The long corridor stretched endlessly. The grandfather clock ticked in slow, hollow beats, sounding like knocks from another world. Leo shut himself away in his room, curtains drawn tight. He refused food, refused sleep, and sat curled on the floor with his broken tablet clutched tight. The cracks across the screen spread like wounds, but he held it as if letting go would cause the whole world to collapse. Julian lingered at the doorway, staring in. He never entered, never spoke. He would watch for a few moments through the crack, then walk away. In his eyes there was no grief of a father, only the irritation of a man losing control. 2 days later, a sleek black car pulled up at Crestwood. From it stepped a tall young woman, dark hair tied back neatly. Dr. Anya Sharma, a therapist known for her sharp mind and unwavering resolve. From the first moment, she shifted the air not with false comfort, but with quiet strength. She sat down on the floor, eye level with Leo, and allowed his silence to remain untouched. No rush, no pressure, no desperate questions. The staff looked on, baffled. To them it seemed pointless, but Anya understood. Children like Leo didn't need to be forced to speak. They needed someone who would accept silence as its own language. By the third day, she noticed Leo drawing the same 3 images again and again. The first, a tall man with a sorrowful face, standing beside a tree engulfed in flames, red strokes spilling violently across the page. The second, Julian himself, stiff and looming, hiding the red leather case inside a grandfather clock in the library, rendered with uncanny detail, from the lock to the scratches on the glass. The third, the most damning of all, Julian handing the red case to another man in a black car, while that man held a suitcase brimming with money. Anya watched in silence. a chill running down her spine. This isn't imagination. This is memory. And it is also an accusation. She carefully photographed each drawing, storing them on her phone. To others, they would be dismissed as childish scrawls. To her, they were evidence. One afternoon, she decided to confront him. Julian sat in his office, yellow light etching the hard lines of his face. "Mr. Croft," Anya said, placing her phone on the desk and sliding through the images. "How do you explain these drawings?" Julian glanced, then smirked. "Scribbles from a troubled child. I hired you to handle therapy, not to script cheap accusations." Anya didn't flinch. "You're mistaken. These aren't fantasies. They're memories. Your son saw you hide the case, and he saw you pass it on." Julian slammed his hand against the desk, the sound cracking through the wooden room. "You dare accuse me in my own house? Do you know who I am?" Her tone stayed calm, eyes unyielding. "I know you're a father. And a father must listen to his child's voice, even when that voice comes in drawings." Julian lunged forward, snatching the tablet from her hand, his eyes blazing red. "No more evidence," he roared, raising it to smash. "I've already backed everything up to the cloud, Mr. Croft," she replied evenly. The office door swung open. A deep voice broke the tension. "And I've received a copy." Marcus Vance entered, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit, his eyes steady with conviction. He laid a thick folder on the desk. "Mr. Croft, I think we have much to discuss." Julian froze, his hand trembling. The mask of composure cracked, falling away piece by piece. In that moment, Anya saw what no one else dared admit. Julian was no longer the emblem of power, but a man terrified of exposure. Marcus folded his arms, voice low but clear. "If you have an explanation, now is the time. If not, the police will hear it. And believe me, they'll find what you thought was buried." Julian swallowed hard, sweat beading his brow. Still, he forced a cold smile. Children's doodles. A few careless words. None of it would stand in court. Marcus let the silence weigh for a beat before replying. "Maybe you think so. I don't, and I don't believe justice will stay quiet." Their eyes locked. Not just a legal standoff, but a clash of values. A white billionaire used to command, and a black lawyer who only bowed to truth. The air itself grew tight, suffocating. That night Leo drew again, under the dim lamp, with Anya beside him. His hand trembled, but his strokes were sure. He sketched a house engulfed in flames, roof tiles glowing red. The house looked unmistakably like Crestwood. His eyes held something both mournful and resolute. Anya shivered. This was not fantasy. It was a premonition, one too vivid to ignore. The next morning, Marcus departed Crestwood with the file in hand. At the gate he paused, glancing back at the silent garden. "If we're right," he told Anya, "Croft isn't just guilty of fraud. He's betrayed everyone who trusted him, and he's destroyed an innocent woman's life." Anya nodded, gaze distant. "We'll prove it. Not only for Serena, but for Leo, because he has spoken, in the only way he can." Julian sat alone in the library after they left. The vast room glowed under dim yellow light. The grandfather clock ticked steadily, each beat a reminder. But he didn't hear it, his eyes fixed on the dark space where the red case once lay. His chest heaved, fists clenched. Everything was slipping from his grasp, and he knew with clarity. When control was gone, only one instinct remained: destruction. The news exploded overnight. Julian Croft, the name once feared across the business world, was taken into police custody for investigation. Articles and breaking headlines spread like flames across dry grass. From Wall Street to boardrooms in California, one question echoed: how could an empire crumble because of a child's drawings? Serena heard the news from her small cell, her hands trembling against the cold bars. When Marcus arrived, he only nodded. "You're free." The door swung open, the hinge squealing like a prelude to freedom. Serena stepped out, lifted her face to the gray sky, and drew in a deep breath. The air smelled of freedom mixed with damp rain, heady as baptism. Leo was waiting in the corridor. When he saw Serena, he didn't run or burst into tears like in a movie. He simply walked forward and wrapped his small arms around her neck. Serena knelt, clutching him tight. A breath brushed her ear. Home, just one word, the first time he had spoken in weeks. Tears streamed down her cheeks, warm against her skin. One word, yet it carried a whole world. The world she knew she had saved. Elsewhere, Julian hadn't surrendered. After 2 days, he was released on bail awaiting trial. From a man of power, he had become a wandering shadow. Reporters swarmed, shareholders fled, yet Julian's gray eyes stayed cold. "I will take it all back," he whispered to his reflection in the dark room. His voice rasped like wind seeping through cracks. He had lost his company, his reputation, and even temporary custody of Leo. But one thing he still clung to, the belief that only he had the right to decide. A few nights later, flames rose from Crestwood Manor. Red fire clawed at the ancient roof tiles. Glass shattered, wood cracked, and black smoke spiraled skyward. Neighbors poured into the streets, watching a monument of power dissolve into ash. The press called it an electrical fault, but Anya knew, Marcus knew, and Serena, watching on the TV screen, knew beyond doubt. Leo had drawn it first. In their small apartment, Serena and Leo sat together, the firelight from the screen flickering in his eyes. This time his gaze was calm, almost serene. He pointed to the burning house on the screen and whispered another word. "Bad over." Serena pulled him close, her throat tight. She saw the blaze but felt no hatred, only release. When Julian faced trial, the courtroom overflowed with the press. But the proceedings were brief. Data from burner phones, leaked recordings, and testimony from witnesses painted a full picture. Julian had sold technology secrets and framed a black housemaid for his crime. He stayed silent throughout. No defense, no remorse. Only emptiness, as though what remained of him had burned down with Crestwood. Afterward, Marcus found Serena. "Justice has spoken, but you know sometimes truth needs someone willing to stay silent until it's heard." Serena gave a sad smile. "Silence can save, but it can also kill. I only did what Leo needed." He nodded. "And that is strength." Late at night, with everything settled, Serena sat by the window watching Leo sleep peacefully. He clutched his small pillow, his breathing steady. In the dim glow, his young face was clear. A boy who had spoken 2 words after weeks of silence. Home and bad. Serena whispered to herself, "The world may never be fair." But sometimes one person standing in silence can turn silence into thunder. Julian Croft's story did not end with prison, or with the fire that devoured Crestwood. It ended in the moment a child found his voice again. In that moment, a black woman, once overlooked and dismissed, became the only shield that mattered. People would argue about Julian, genius businessman or betrayer, but no one would argue about Serena. Her legacy was not in buildings, but in the light of a child's eyes rediscovering speech. And if anyone asked Serena what she gained after it all, perhaps her answer would be captured in a single image. Leo at the window, holding a colored pencil, drawing a small house. No flames, no smoke, no looming figures. Only golden light inside, and a sky at peace. So what do you think? Has Leo truly escaped the shadow of Crestwood, or will the fire still haunt his memories? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and follow Toch Stories so you won't miss the next journey that stirs the heart.